Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Healthy Living Together. There's a few housekeeping items. Your audio is automatically muted. We will have a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to ask a question at the end of the presentation. And this event will be recorded and a link will be sent in a follow-up email. Today's agenda is sleep, the best ways to get what you need, and an easy home workout, as well as the question and answers at the end of the presentation. Today, we have two fabulous speakers with us today that are our physical therapists at McKenzie Health. We have Jennifer Long and Veronica Byrne, as well as your host today, Kristina, which is me, and I'm a dietitian. All right, and then we'll have Jen take over from here.
Okay. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Since it is noon, I'm glad to be here this afternoon speaking with you about sleep. And I have one of my colleagues, Veronica Byrne, sitting next to me. She's going to show, there she is. And I'm going to talk about sleep. And then after my presentation, Veronica is going to take over and talk to you about exercise. So here's a picture of us, someone tossing and turning, the clock still counting down, counting ahead. I think we've all experienced these situations where we can't fall asleep, we're struggling to fall asleep, and the clock's like zooming ahead, and we're thinking we have to get up and go to work. And how can I get to sleep? So today we're going to talk about some things that you can do to improve your sleep, and also what to do if you've tried all those things and they're not working for you. To sleep or not to sleep. In today's world, getting by on little sleep is considered a grand achievement, or it used to be. But by depriving ourselves of sleep, we are causing harm to our bodies as well as our cognitive and mental health. Although many successful individuals claim to get by on little sleep, we don't know the whole story, and nor should we compare ourselves to them. In reality, only 5% of individuals are able to get by and have good health. So to get by on less than 6 hours of sleep and also be healthy. Sleep is essential. Along with nutrition and exercise, sleep is one of the 3 pillars of a healthy lifestyle. Optimal sleep improves your health and quality of life in a variety of ways, which we'll talk about. And healthy sleep involves making the right choices to prioritize and protect sleep. It doesn't just happen. You have to work at it. Like most, if you're going to be healthy, it doesn't just happen. You have to work at it and put in the effort. There's a large burden to society, not only individually, but collectively, as a cost of poor sleep. It's estimated that 50 to 70 million Americans experience chronic sleep disturbances. 62% of us experience a sleep problem several times per week. And the big thing here is estimated that 90% of sleep disorders go undiagnosed and thus untreated. Costs due to insomnia, including accidents, decreased work, and healthcare costs, is estimated $100 billion per year. Sleep facts. We spend approximately 1/3 of our lives sleeping, and that's okay. It's that important. We were hearing more and more about that in the news and the research, how important sleep is. During sleep, so why is sleep important? Because during sleep, critical life-sustaining activities occur, including cardiovascular and neurological recovery, immune function and tissue healing. Our pain is modulated. Our cognitive function improves, and our learning and memory improvements take place as well during sleep. On the converse, if we have insufficient, especially chronic insufficient sleep, I mean, if you have one night of poor sleep, you may be, sleepy and that sort of thing, but this is chronic insufficient sleep, contributes to a variety of things, including increased depression, anxiety, disruption of information processing, so how we learn, it impairs your memory. We have a reduced ability to learn new motor skills. Chronic insufficient sleep can also contribute to hypertension, which is high blood pressure, cardiovascular or heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and of course, the increased risk of accidents, injuries, and falls when we're not getting enough sleep. So how much sleep? do we need? 7 to 9 hours is recommended. Big thing about naps. Naps are okay for seniors who sleep less than 7 hours a night, and of course, growing young children, but regular naps are not recommended. If you do need to nap, they should be limited to 20 to 30 minutes. If you sleep too long during the day, you probably won't get good sleep at night. So limit those naps if you need to have them. If you sleep less than 7 hours and you don't feel well rested, or you have chronic health conditions, you probably need to work on getting more sleep. You're not one of those 5% that can get by on less. Keep in mind, if you are ill or recovering from surgery, your body's going to need more rest, and that's okay. So important, you may be exceeding that 9 hours of sleep when you're recovering, or you may be napping, and those are okay times to do those things. And then finally, you cannot make up for lost sleep. People say, I'll sleep more tomorrow, the next day. You can't make up for it. So you need to try to get it consistently every night. Sleep hygiene. This is a new term in the medical world, and sleep hygiene refers to the behaviors and environment that promote optimal sleep. So next we're going to talk about, I have several slides coming up that are going to talk about how to improve your sleep hygiene and thus your sleep. Some of them will be obvious, some will not be. So the first thing is to follow a schedule and a routine, and that means falling asleep and waking up at the same time each day. And another tip is to create a consistent bedtime routine. Maybe you're going to take your bath or shower at night. Maybe you're going to read for a few minutes before you get into bed. And you might consider some relaxation techniques. When I was researching for this, it kind of made me think back to when I was a new mom and how everyone talked about all these tips to get your kids to sleep, right? And it was that routine, creating that bedtime routine, and then the same time to fall asleep and wake up. So it kind of took me back to those days that some of those parenthood tips can apply to us today. Another tip is to avoid stressful conversations or stressful TV programs close to bedtime. I am not someone who can watch a revved up TV program like if it's a action-packed thriller, murder mystery type thing before bed. No, I'm not going to sleep well if I watch that. So I know I will stay away from those kind of programs before bedtime. The other thing you want to do is pay attention to other things that might increase your stress level close to bedtime. Maybe you have a friend or relative with a tenseful relationship. Maybe not a good time to call them, 20 minutes before you clock out for the night. So being aware of those triggers, if you will, and trying to avoid those if you can close to bedtime. Another thing, I know a lot of people do it, but using the TV to fall asleep is not recommended. Quiet, soothing music's okay, but not clicking the TV on, crawling into bed and falling asleep too. That's not recommended. It interferes with your sleep. Your sleep isn't as good of quality. Another tip, this kind of goes back to the TV shows, but limiting activities that rev your brain prior to bed. So any kind of screen, being on your phone, tablet, TV, laptops, you want to avoid those close to bedtime. And then vigorous exercise, I put a question mark there. Years ago, we were taught in the medical world, don't exercise vigorously before bedtime. Your heart rate stays elevated for a while after we exercise, which is normal. We know all that, but that could limit your ability to fall asleep. So that's something you have to take into consideration for yourself. It's not an absolute, but if you're someone who goes and works out vigorously at 8 o'clock at night and then expects to be asleep by 9:30 or 10 and you have trouble falling asleep, you may need to change your exercise time or not do such a vigorous workout right before bedtime. This is a big one. Maintain the bed and bedroom for sleep and personal relations only. The bedroom or the bed is not for work. It's not for TV watching. It's not recommended you read there, and not for eating. So creating this environment where your brain recognizes that when I go into bed in the bedroom and crawl into bed, it's sleep. I'm not going to be thinking about work, hopefully, or watching TV or eating a bedtime snack. So keep the bed and bedroom for the sleep and interpersonal relations only. What about food and drink? So fluids, many of us have to wake up more than a couple times a night to urinate. So if you are waking up more than twice a night to urinate, is not normal, not considered normal. So if you're waking up more often than that, I would consider restricting your fluids before bedtime, a couple hours before bedtime. And I would keep a journal with how much you drank, because sometimes you think, oh, I didn't drink that much, just had a sip, but maybe you downed a glass of water with your nighttime meds. And then you woke up at midnight and 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. So again, not an absolute, but if you are someone waking up more than twice a night to use the restroom, you would need to consider limiting your fluid intake a couple hours before bedtime. And the only way to know how that's going to work for you is to keep that journal. Like, if at dinner at 6 o'clock you had 3 glasses of water, went to bed at 9 and were up a lot, you'd want to limit that. We don't want you to limit your fluid intake and become dehydrated. So just make sure you're drinking more throughout the day and less closer to bedtime. The other things you want to avoid as far as food and drink, some of these will seem obvious, avoiding alcohol close to bedtime. For many of us, if we have a drink, we think we're more relaxed, which it does relax us, but it also increases your need to go to the bathroom. It's a stimulant to your bladder, and it disrupts your REM or that deep sleep. And it can also worsen snoring and sleep apnea before bedtime. So limit or avoid alcohol before bedtime. Coffee, but also sodas and energy drinks have a lot of caffeine, and that can delay your body clock. One study found consuming caffeine 6 hours before bedtime reduced your sleep time by an hour. And keep in mind that even decaf coffee and some teas contain some caffeine. So I would again advise paying attention to what you put in your body closer to bedtime. I know people that can't drink coffee or soda past noon. Myself personally, I can drink a cup of coffee at 6 o'clock and at 6 p.m. and I can be sleeping by 9:30. It does not bother me, but that's me. So I know I can do that, but not everyone can. So be aware of what your triggers are, if you will. And then spicy foods, things that some of us have heartburn. So things that cause those kind of GI distress, you'd want to try to avoid eating those close to bedtime. So let's say you did all those things, you did your mindfulness, your quiet music, you kept your bedroom for sleep only, those sorts of things, and you're still struggling to fall asleep. What's recommended if you can't fall asleep within 15 to 20 minutes, or if you start to feel anxious about things, to leave the bedroom. Don't lay there and toss and turn and look at the clock, but leave the bedroom, maybe go to a different room, listen to some music or do some breathing there, deep breathing, read a book that's calming to you, something like that. Draw, some of us like to draw the relaxation drawing. Do something like that until you feel sleepy and then go back to the bedroom. So I listed the next part, those relaxation techniques such as diaphragmatic breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, mindfulness. There's a lot of good, I'm not going to go over those, but there's a lot of good videos online out there about those things. Keep in mind for your elderly or your elderly loved ones, or maybe you, if you had surgery or something, if the sleeping location is not the bedroom for a while, maybe it's in the living room or on a recliner, attempt to make that sleeping location as conducive as possible to sleep. So keeping it quiet if there's other people in the home, but respecting that person, keeping it quiet in that area. Maybe you need to do some light blocking blinds, those sorts of things. And again, if that nocturia, which is frequent nighttime urination, if that's disrupting your sleep, again, limit those fluids in the evening and avoid caffeine and alcohol. We get a lot of questions as physical therapists about sleeping position. What's the best one? The one I really don't recommend is stomach sleeping, and we'll go over why that is. But if you're on your back, recommend a pillow under your knees. That'll take some stress off your low back or lumbar spine. If you're at risk for sleep apnea, sleeping on your back is not recommended. That'll increase your snoring. If you're on your side, we recommend a pillow between the legs. And sleeping in the prone or on your stomach position is typically not recommended due to stress on the neck and low back. I've got some pictures of those, and we'll go through those next. So this is a picture of someone on their back. In the top picture, you can see there's nothing underneath their knees, and then that puts a little strain on the low back. For the neck, the head position is a little bit too high, and their neck is bent upward, could cause some stress on your neck. In the lower position, putting a pillow underneath your knees decreases the stress to the low back. And then this is a contour pillow. For people with neck pain, they sometimes find relief with that because it supports the natural curve in your neck. So those would be recommendations if you're a back sleeper. If you're a side sleeper, and this one, the pictures are reversed as far as the bottom picture is what we don't want to encourage. You can see without a pillow between the legs, there's a great slope between the hip and the knee. And that it's not wrong to have your legs together, but it's that the duration of time that you're in that position can overstretch the hip and low back and give you some back or hip discomfort. So in the top picture, we have a pillow between the knees, and that takes that stress off the hip and back. And this is that prone or stomach lying position that we're not fans of. I know a lot of people do it and get by, but long term, you can see with the arrow here at pointing to the person's neck. If you sat all day at your desk with your head turned to one side, looking at something, it would get uncomfortable over time. This is the same thing that sleeping on your stomach promotes. Most of us don't have those medical tables with the hole cut out where we can put our head in and just keep it in the center. So stomach sleeping is not recommended. They're hard habits to change, but this is the reason why that we don't recommend stomach sleeping. And pillows, we get a lot of question about pillow, but this is just a nice diagram of pillow height. I think you can appreciate in the top line, the first picture on your left-hand side, the pillow is too low and the person's head is kind of hanging down. Again, not optimal. We're looking for symmetry, keeping the neck even in line with the body. In the second picture in the middle top, the pillow's too high and the head is flexed up or bent upward. And then in the last picture on the top right, the pillow's even and the person's neck stays in alignment. In the bottom pictures, the bottom row, the person's lying on their back. Again, the pillow's too low, the neck's an extension. The middle, the pillow's too high, the neck's in flexion. And then in the last picture, it's correct where they're just lined up. So we're looking for that symmetrical position, not where our neck's out of position for long periods of time. That's what you're looking for. So what's next? Again, you've tried these recommendations, you still have poor sleep. You need to discuss that with your primary care provider. Sleep is, again, the pillars of good health. So if you've done everything that's recommended and you're still having trouble, you should talk about these things with your sleep, with your primary care provider. And what could some of those things be? Sleep apnea is a very common thing, and it's usually hallmarked by loud snoring. The person themselves may not notice it, but their loved one that's sleeping with them probably hears them snoring. You may even actually feel them or hear them stop breathing. So it's a serious condition that requires a sleep study to be ordered to determine that, and that's something you want to talk to your provider about. Some medications can cause insomnia or sleep disorders. So again, talking to your doctor about those things. Restless leg syndrome. So you climb in bed at night and your legs just feel restless, like they're spasmy maybe, or painful. You just can't get them to settle down. A common thing that can keep people up at night, and there is treatment for that. Mental health. We all have stressors throughout our lives and they come and go. And perhaps you need some mental health counseling, a therapist, like a mental health therapist, to discuss those things with to help improve your sleep. And then there is chronic insomnia, people who just are not good sleepers. So any of those things you want to talk to your primary care provider about and get help with that. So a lot of resources on the web. We all know this, the world we live in. You can Google anything and get some good answers and some not so good. These were some sources I found that had good patient-friendly advice and information to use, well-researched. So those are there for you: the National Sleep Foundation, the American Sleep Association, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, and then the CDC also has some good resources. Now I'm going to hand this over to my colleague, Veronica Byrne, one of our physical therapists here at McKenzie. Exercise is just as important. Exercise has numerous health benefits and has been shown to increase the length and quality of sleep, as well as reduce the use of sleep aid medication. So hang with us a moment here while we switch seats.
Okay, so like Jenny said about sleep as well, there is more than just like personally like benefits to maintaining like exercise and activity recommendations. So as a whole in the United States, last year they estimated $117 billion in annual healthcare costs could have been prevented by people meeting activity recommendations. And in the United States right now, only about 80% of people, or excuse me, only 20% of people, 80% of people are not meeting activity recommendations. And so here's my my plea to get us all up and moving. Like Jenny said, exercise can greatly increase your ability to sleep and sleep well. A lot of people need sleep to feel more energy, but also exercising can give you more energy, so you'll sleep better too. So it's kind of a two-way street. You got to start someplace. Okay. So we also know that for people with like mild depression, that exercise can have just as much of an improvement on mood as antidepressant medications do, some of them. And so sometimes, you know, like Jenny said, like the just regular stresses in life that can come and go. Sometimes when they get on top of us, this is one of the things we can do to help with that without any real side effects like medication does too. So, and Kristina, she can probably testify too, like how much exercise helps blood sugar as well as a dietitian. And so what we see is when people exercise, even the next day, people's blood sugars remain a little bit more under control. And so these next handful of things I have listed here all kind of follow suit. Okay, so this is a wonderful cascade of events to start going. So we exercise a little bit more, our blood sugars are a little more stable. That helps us lose weight. Okay, when we know that people who have healthier weights help maintain better blood pressures too. So we've seen people before who, you know, like they're able to stop taking some medications for blood sugars and blood pressures just by increasing their activity levels. And so blood pressure being more well managed, that helps reduce problems with the heart, like heart disease and that too. And we know from even more recent studies just in the last year or two, how important especially like cardiovascular exercises for the health of the brain. By doing some of this more vigorous exercise, then people are getting that blood flow to the brain, and that helps us maintain better thinking, better cognition as well. And the other thing too that I'll add too is that they also think that about 10% of people die every year from things that could be prevented by increased activity as well. So what types of exercise are we talking about? There's a few different things that fall into this recommendation of activities that we can perform. So the first one is aerobic activity. So aerobic exercise, that's a physical activity that uses your body's large muscle groups rhythmically and repetitively. So we think of this as things like biking, swimming, walking, stair stepping, something that's gonna get our heart rate up and get us kind of like huffing and puffing a little bit more, okay? Flexibility is another way that we can add exercise into our routine too. And a lot of people, I think, kind of overlook this. They think it's not really important because it's not strong. But you have to, in order to have optimal capacity for your muscles to function, you have to have optimal flexibility of them as well. So this can also help contribute to less pain. You know, some people don't like to exercise because things hurt. So if you start with more flexibility training and stretching, sometimes that can help not only with the pain, but with your strength as well. So one thing that I'll say about stretching is when you stretch muscles, you want to make sure to hold those stretches for long enough. Okay, so a lot of muscles, if you stretch them for 30 seconds, do a couple, 2 or 3 times on each muscle group, you really want to make sure to hold them long enough. Otherwise, they're not going to get stretched completely and you won't get that full benefit. Okay. The other thing is that stretching shouldn't hurt. If stretching hurts, there might be a problem. So when you stretch, only stretch in what feels like a comfortable range for you. Okay. Another type of exercise that I think a lot of us kind of think about naturally is just strengthening exercises. Okay. And so this resistance training, there's a couple of benefits. One, it helps to maintain or increase what's our lean muscle mass. So again, that's going to help with our metabolism, maintaining healthy weight, but also bone density too, because we know as we age, a lot of times we start to lose that bone density. So if we fall or something, we don't want to break a bone. So that's why strengthening is recommended at least twice a week. And so when we talk about strengthening, again, this shouldn't be painful, but should be fatiguing. And if our goal is to do strengthening to improve like power, then we want to do like between like 8 to 12 repetitions at about 60 to 80% of what we would say our 1 repetition maximum is. So if the most that you could pick up was like 50 pounds, you know, maybe you're going to start with doing some like resistance training with closer to like 25 to 35 pounds. Start there and see what feels comfortable. Again, not wanting to make our muscles sore, but just tire them out. Now, the last thing I have listed on here is balance. And balance is one of those things, if you don't use it, you lose it. Okay, and so normal balance for an adult would be the ability to stand on one leg for about a half a minute. So if you can't do that, there's a good chance that you need to add in some balance training. So we know that balance can improve by improving strength and flexibility as well, but there are benefits even to just doing, you know, like a few minutes, a few times a week of balance training to help decrease people's risk for falls as well. Okay, so the big question is, how much do we really have to do to keep ourselves healthy? Okay, so if you're a minimalist, here's your list. So we all know that little kids have a lot of energy, right? And so they need a lot more activity. So these young kids, like before their school age, they recommend about 3 hours a day of activity for them. By the time that kids are getting into school, they say that 1 hour a day, 7 hours a week. And this should include things that are some strengthening things as well. It's not just like running or aerobic activity, but doing some strength training as well. But we do want to make sure that really until females and males both, until they're skeletally mature, we don't want to push people to like their 1 repetition maximum for strengthening, just because their bones aren't done healing yet, or growing yet, I mean. So adults, and this is considered anyone 18 or older, the recommendation is 150 minutes per week. So if we think about it as like half hour a day, most days of the week, that's what's recommended. And that includes older adults as well. For the subset of women who are pregnant or postpartum, the recommendation would be to continue whatever exercise regimen you were doing before, unless your doctor specifies otherwise. And so this last group up on here, if you fall into one of those categories of you already have maybe cardiovascular disease or diabetes or some arthritis or something like that, there are still lots of safe ways for you to exercise. If you're not sure about exercise, then like Jenny said too, this is one of these things that you need to bring up with your family doctor, your primary care provider, because really a lot of these things can be treated with exercise as well. So this might be a time where they may refer you to like a physical therapist or a personal trainer for a little bit more individualized training to make sure we don't exacerbate anything while we're trying to get you moving a little bit better as well. Okay, so if we talk about this 150 to 300 minutes of activity per week, if you're thinking that sounds like a lot, we know that there's health benefits to doing less than that as well, but it has to be more intense. Okay, so if we use this kind of like 0 to 10 scale for intensity, so 0 would be like exercise is I'm not doing anything, I'm just sitting. Okay, and 10 is your maximal effort. There's no way you could possibly do any more. This moderate level of activity, which is what's recommended for this 150 to 300 minutes per week, that would be like a 5 or 6 on that scale. If you feel like you really want to improve your mood and you really want to maybe press a little harder for some heart health and stuff like that, a lot of us can tolerate doing vigorous activity. And we know that only about half as much vigorous activity is required to maintain the same health benefits that would be for this 150 to 300 minutes of physical activity. And the nice thing about this is too, we don't have to do it all at once. Okay, so if we do 10 minutes at a time, you know, and spread it out throughout the day, if that's all you can get is 10 minutes at a time, that's okay. That still all adds up. Okay. Now, if you're one of those people who likes to like track all of your steps a day, what they recommend is actually a minimum of 5,000. 10,000 is kind of like this magical number that's floating out there. Everybody wants 10,000 steps a day. And that's 5,000. If you're only going to be able to do about 5,000, you want to try and make them those more vigorous steps. If you're kind of if you're up and you're moving, that's good, but you're going to need to do more of just moving as opposed to going for a really brisk walk. So depending on how intense those steps are, anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000. So this is the question that everyone wants to answer, is why I can't exercise. And so we joke that of course we're not in any shape to exercise, right? But we know that there are certain things that will help us get into a regular routine of exercise. So we know that having a person to kind of help hold you accountable. So whether this is a spouse, a coworker, a workout partner, one of your kids, but having a person that you meet maybe at a certain place, like maybe you will always meet at Walmart at 10 o'clock on Wednesdays and you'll walk for 20 minutes. Whether that's being part of a group fitness program at a gym, or I know, McKenzie has a list of classes that they offer as well that are in groups. Okay, so committing yourself to, I'm going to be here at this time, at this place with this group, they'll lead me. And just prioritizing that, saying, yep, okay, this is the same as a dentist appointment. This is something that I have to do today because this is just as important for my health. Okay. Some people like to get pets. They say, well, the most exercise I get is when I go out and walk my dog, or, different things like this. So a lot of people get pets, even doing things just like parking further away at the grocery store. There's another 200 steps. Okay. And a lot of us think too that we have to make exercise feel like work, but it doesn't have to be. Like if anybody's ever watched a really good performance on TV of a singer or a guitar player or something like that, I mean, those guys are dripping sweat, right? And so even in your own house, I mean, put on some music to dance to. Get yourself a keyboard or a guitar or something that you're going to be up and you're going to be moving and engaged. Okay. And just remember, it takes a little bit of time to form a habit, but if you can maintain a habit after you get through that first like 12, 14 days, it'll be a lot easier to maintain because you're going to tell that you're sleeping better. You're going to tell that you're in a better mood. You're going to realize you're not as sore after about 5 days as you were after the first day. And so just don't let yourself give up too soon. Okay. So I put together a little bit of video here that we can watch for a couple of things that you should be able to do just at home. So give me 1 second to pull this up, okay? This is they see this instead of this.
Hey, Veronica, it's not playing on our end. You may have to share your screen again with the video. There we go. I can see it now.
Okay, there we go. Sorry.
Let's restart that. Perfect. Is there a way to add volume to this?
Is there a way to hit unmute? We're on.
There.
Is that better?
Nope.
I can't. I don't know how to.
That's as loud as it goes.
Okay. You may want to just talk us through it then, so we know which moves you're doing.
So maybe go back.
Yeah. Okay. Third time's the charm. I'm going to talk you through it and then you can watch me too, okay?
Should you want to mute? So
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah.
Well,
Oops. Okay, so these are ones that exercises that you can do just at home. I just used a chair for a little bit of balance. Okay, so I'm going to start with just some leg kicks and squats. So the benefits of squats is it really helps strengthen up your thighs, but it also gives you a stretch into your calf muscles as well. The benefits of leg kicks are one for balance on one leg, but also strengthening your back and your core. So you want to make sure that you're not bending as you're doing those, and that you're not getting any back pain as you're doing them too. Okay, so you want to really focus on form more than how far that you're going. Okay, so if you're using a chair or a counter, either one, when you kick forwards, just switch so that you're holding on with the same arm as you're kicking with. That'll help you keep better balance and help you get a stronger contraction as well. One of the best things for balance is maintaining flexibility and strength in your calf muscles. And so heel raises are a great way to do that. Just making sure you're going up, straight up all the way, not leaning forwards, and that you're coming down slowly, because you really actually get more strengthening coming down than you do going up. Okay, so this, what you see now, this is what we call a tandem walk. So just walking with one foot right in front of the other. Again, just maybe having one hand like on a counter or a steady back of a chair to help keep your balance. And that's one of those things you can do, you know, a half a minute every day, and you get 5 minutes in a week, and you're improving your balance. So this runner stretch here, you'll see me doing now. This will help keep the front of your thigh and the back of your calf stretched out in the back leg, and a little bit of your ankle in the front leg as well. The bigger stance that you take, the further apart the legs are, the more stretch you'll get. Okay, so again, just make sure you hold those stretches for 30 seconds. This leg kick that you'll see here now, that's a great way to help keep the front of your legs stretched out, especially if you feel like you're sitting more than you're used to. That's one thing that we see a lot of people have trouble with, and that can create a lot of back pain as well. So exercise bands are really good for a lot of things, for strengthening the shoulders and for posture as well. This band here is like a moderate resistance band. So I'm just keeping my elbows tucked in at my side and pulling my wrists apart. You should feel probably a little bit of stretch in your shoulders, but a lot of tightening in your upper back. These are incredibly good for posture, especially if like neck pain or shoulder pain is keeping you from sleeping as well. So if you're a little bit stronger, you should be able to do with your arms straight at shoulder height, just keeping your elbows straight, not letting them bend, and just pulling apart until you feel that nice tenseness behind your shoulder blades there too. So if you do just straight out in front with the band, not letting your elbow bend, you actually work both arms at the same time with the band. That's nice. So you can alternate. You can do one up and down, or some people prefer to just do up and then do backwards, just holding against the chair so you can get a little further motion behind you too. And don't be surprised if when you start doing some of these band exercises, you feel your heart rate going up too. Okay, that's part of the benefits of resistance training, is you get the blood flowing to your muscles as well. Okay. So let me come back to my other screen here. So again, there's a few more resources. The CDC has some good information on exercise as well. Department of Health and Human Services, those are where the guidelines come from for like the 150 to 300 minutes of exercise a day, but there's more details in there if you want to look them up. The American Physical Therapy Association has a website called Choose PT. It's got some good information on exercise there as well, or just physical activity in general. And the Cleveland Clinic, another really good resource as well. So that is everything that we have scheduled to present. So we're going to turn it over to Kristina again. And if you guys have some questions that we could help answer for you to help get you sleeping and moving better, we are all ears, okay?
Well, thank you, Jen and Veronica. I'm having fun over here. I have mine as well by my office. It's always a good thing to do when you're at work too, because how many of us are exhausted after work or have things to do? You can always put these in while you're reading your emails or doing, you know, there's so many different resources that you guys shared. There are fantastic. So, you know, rewatch and we'll send out an email as well at the end. But at this time, we have time for questions, and we actually have some. Will you be sending a link to the presentation? Absolutely. Nina will be sending that out. So you will have resources to go look back at this. Another question is, what's the best pillow or mattress would you guys recommend? Because there's so many different products out in the market and everyone advertises a little bit differently.
Loaded question. Unfortunately, I don't have one answer. I'm not selling mattresses or pillows. But research has shown what mattresses are like shoes. What Kristina likes, what Veronica likes, what I like could be completely different types of mattresses or shoes, different price points. I could buy the cheapest mattress out there and I might love it and sleep like a baby. So no one hard recommendation for that. It's hard to try mattresses out because, you know, they're expensive and people don't like to return them. But if you visit somewhere or you're at a hotel and you're like, oh, this mattress is so comfortable, like what kind is it? Where did they buy it? But really doing your research. I mean, I bought a mattress about 2 years ago and I'm telling you, I went to the store like 3 times. I laid on it. I, you know, cut my list down to which I liked best, went back again. Did I like that same, like the right one? So not a hard and fast answer. As far as pillows, definitely, I would say look back to that screen that with the slide that I showed with what the neck looked like when you were sleeping. Because again, we're different sizes. So if I have a 6'8", 300-pound football player who's really broad shoulder, they're going to need a larger, thicker pillow than Veronica. Because if she has a big pillow, her head's going to be flexed way forward or to the side. Not a good position, but someone who's broad shouldered needs a thicker pillow. So really looking at your neck alignment, if you will, when you're lying on your back or side, and is my neck centered over my body or is it tilted to one side or tipping back? You want to avoid those out of alignment things for long periods of time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It really just, everybody's different and they have individual needs. So it's very personalized. How do you know if you're exercising too much before bedtime, where it's causing too much pain? What is enough? What is too much?
That's a good question. And we know that everybody's perception of pain is a little bit different too. So we do know that when you start an exercise program, if you particularly if you're going to do strength training, you want to give it a couple of days of doing the same amount of like weight and repetitions before you start to progress them, like a couple of days without pain before you progress to like more repetitions or more weight, either one. It's normal to feel soreness sometimes the day. For most people, it's like the next day after increased exercise, but some people it can actually be 2 days afterwards that they'll notice a little increased soreness. But it's not soreness that should make you gasp or like keep you from sleeping or anything like that. It's like when you go to stand up from a chair or when you go to reach for something, you're like, oh yeah, I remember I started exercising yesterday. So yeah, it shouldn't, if I say it should be like a mild pain, it shouldn't be anything that, you know, if you took a Tylenol or an aspirin or something, that it should go back away. And sometimes we know that a little bit of ice or something like that could help too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering those questions. And if there's any other questions, please feel free to type them on the Q&A on the bottom of the screen.
Sounds like your exercise buddy. I hear him chirping.
You do? That's a small one. I have birds. I'm like, oh yeah. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Veronica. You guys did a fantastic presentation. And thank you. It was very informative, and I think we all could use a little bit better sleep. So thank you guys, and we will send out the link.
Bye.
Bye.